opened up her Instagram app when she saw an ad for a cabin in the mountains. A cozy spot up in the woods with a nice little view, conifer trees around. The kind of place you go to escape, for a break. But she froze because she had never even searched for it, let alone talk about it to anyone. She had only ever thought about it in passing as she was entering the gym a week ago. Stacy swears the algorithm's reading her mind. But what if it's not reading her mind, rather it put the thought in her mind before she could have it? Wake up, world, and welcome to Unseen Game. I'm Pablo, and this is where we unlearn the life we were trained to accept and tap into the life we were meant to live. And once we believe we are meant for another life, we can begin to see the flaws in the current one we're living. We can see the game clearly. Once we believe we're meant for something greater, we begin to see what is meant to be unseen. The rules for this game that we're playing that we didn't even realize, that we didn't even want to in the first place. And then we realize the hard truth that most of what you want, most of what we're trained to strive for and pursue is a desire that was given to us. It's not ours to want. Rather, it was handed along with our goals, installed. Success is defined for us. And when we're old enough to take a pause and ask who even benefits from this version of success that we were fed? It's too late. But I get it, right? It's good to get good grades. It's good for someone to go to a good school and maintain a stable job and have a respectable partner who they love and eventually retire at least before 60. But along the way, we realize that there's milestones that we didn't even choose for ourselves. No one ever asks us hey, what makes you feel alive? Instead, it's hey, what do you do for a living? What makes you useful? What makes you employable? What makes you predictable? We stop dreaming. And that voice in our head becomes someone else's. That's when we start chasing the things we never chose, but do it to impress other people who will never know or never even care about. And inside this system, we're never given time to question what's right and what's good for us. And it doesn't just shape what we buy, but it shapes what we believe about ourselves, about our worth, about the world, and what this world is supposed to look like. And once we start scratching the surface, the question isn't, what do you actually want? But when do you begin to question if it's you that actually wants it? We spend our lives working hard just to earn stacks of paper that they can print without limit. We trade our life, our youth, our fire for currencies whose value is designed to expire. And that's not just economics, it's engineered erosion. Call it planned obsolescence of our energy, of our options, of our future. All the while we're stressed, we're burnt out, frantic, feeling helpless, spiraling out of control. And that's when they shake the jar. And we turn on each other like a bunch of ants, red ants, black ants, all in one jar, living peacefully until that moment that they shake the jar and all the ants begin to turn on each other, fighting to death. The red ants blame the black ants, the black ants blame the red ants, and nobody questions the hand that shook the jar. Now, look around. Here we are. Ants in a jar. Left versus right. Rich versus poor. Citizen versus immigrant. Even friend versus friend. Worker versus worker. Believer versus believer. Neighbor versus neighbor. It keeps us distracted, blaming each other, pointing the finger, fighting, fearing, divided. It keeps them in power. Because most of us never stop to ask oh my God, who's shaking this jar? And this right here, that's the root of basically all the problems in the world. Many a global crisis can be solved by taking a deeper look at the root of our divisions, of our distractions, from politics that seem to just spin in circles to mental health epidemics that just spiral out of control as this system just pretends to serve, but really it's just quietly extracting as it begins with this programmed separation. Because when we forget who the real players are, we fight over the crumbs while the architects feast. Depression, burnout, anxiety, those aren't personal failures. No, those are just symptoms, the byproduct of a world that needs you exhausted, obedient, performing, instead of awake. So you ask yourself, like, man, like, not just who's shaking the jar, but who profits from keeping it shook? The switching of parties, the changing of presidents, arguing online all day, but there's never any real progress. Nothing ever really changes. Everyone's material condition is stagnant. The rent stays high. The groceries keep inflating. The paycheck buys less every year, while the stress multiplies. The demands of life exponentially grow. Then you come to know that they're not just shaking the jar, they own it, and they're charging you rent to be imprisoned in it, confined behind a glass transparent wall. But what if that life you were trained to chase is quietly killing you? What if we're climbing a ladder that's leaning on the wrong wall? It might be hard to accept that. We're trained to survive, but never really shown how to feel alive in the first place. We're told we're winning, but it doesn't ever really feel like it, does it? We collect the titles, hit the milestones, wear the suit, we punch in, we punch out, we earn the praise, but deep down it really feels like we're wearing someone else's name tag, living someone else's life. And while your soul goes quiet, they tell you this is peace instead of resignation. So here's the truth that they work so hard to keep hidden. See, you were never meant to choose between meaning and success, between power and peace, or happiness and survival. Those aren't mutually exclusive concepts. These are a false dichotomy. This is a trap. The only way out is to remember what you actually want, not the version of what they sold you to think you want, not the version your parents hoped for, not the version of you that looks good on your LinkedIn. I'm talking about the real you beneath the noise. This is what we want. We want time to be spacious, untraded time that isn't bought, isn't scheduled or optimized, time we can feel. We want freedom, freedom to say no without guilt, to say yes without fear. We want truth, a life that actually makes sense to us as we're living it. Not one that's performative, but one that we actually believe in, one that serves us with a feeling of aliveness and energy that belongs to us. That's what we want, that feeling of aliveness, intimacy that doesn't feel like a performance, moments of awe, like real connection, real joy that doesn't need to be earned or explained. See, these aren't luxuries. These aren't indulgences. These are your birthright as a human being, as someone with a soul. And the moment we start wanting those things, not out of rebellion, but out of remembrance of who we are inside, that's when the system begins to slip in its grip. That's when it tightens. Because someone who remembers what they truly want, a person who remembers what they truly want, is somebody who cannot be controlled, somebody who cannot be corrupted. But most of us don't even realize we're in that jar. We just wake up, we go to work, we scroll, we chase goals that were handed to us like a grocery list, as we fight battles that aren't ours against people who aren't our enemies to begin with. We've been taught to want what keeps the system running, not what makes us feel alive. But every now and then something cracks. We take a pause, take a breath, and we ask, like, yo, wait a minute, is this really what I want? And that's the moment the jar loses its power. Because the system only works if we keep mistaking movement for meaning, mistaking each other for the enemy. And when we remember what we really want, time, freedom, truth, aliveness, that's when we stop reacting and start remembering that there's a hand shaking the jar. And that hand begins to tremble because now it begins to realize that as it attempts to tighten its grip, it's about to have a handful of shards of glass and very angry ants. So if you feel something's off, if you feel tired, yeah, good. That's a good sign. It means you're not broken, just waking up. And once you begin to want what's truly yours, they can't sell you what you don't need. They can't scare you into silence. They can't keep you in that jar anymore. Unless, of course, you forget that you're either playing the game or the game is playing you. I'm Pablo, and this is Unseen Game. Peace.